Last episode, I ended on a complaint and a promise. Rotas by contact, and contact is not practice. You cannot skip the years, you can only make them denser, and the practice would get manufactured by the same technology that took it away. The standing hedge stands. Learning used to arrive free inside cheap junior work. Then the price of that work fell to almost nothing. I am putting that on AI, and episode 5 named other candidates that have not gone away. So this is the second candidate answer, or rather its first component, graded by the same instrument, and I will tell you the shape of the result before I argue for it. It comes out lower in total, and it reaches 2 on 2 of the 3 rows a rota left at 1. The prior art is not ours, an episode 4 told it as a story about who pays. I am going back for the machine. Edwin Link's trainer says the engineering society that made it a landmark was more popular as a carnival ride than a practical trainer in its early days. And between 1941 and 1945, that same society records, over 10,000 of them were used to train more than 500,000 pilots. Used, which is the source's own verb, and worth keeping, because I have heard myself say built. The patent is the document worth reading. Filed the 12th of March 1930, and the title is a confession. Combination training device for student aviators and entertainment apparatus. One stated object is an automatically operated recording device for scoring or recording the number of errors which the student makes. And then the sentence that is really this episode's thesis, written in 1930. It has been my purpose in this invention, he writes, to provide an apparatus simulating almost exactly every actual condition which a flyer encounters in actual flight. The rest of that sentence is the part one want. The student learns in complete absence of danger to himself or the apparatus, and what he learns is how to meet such conditions and how to create them. That is the argument for a simulator, and it is a claim about density. In the air you wait for the weather. In the box you make it, at 9:10, and again at 20 past. The general form is in the paper this series leans on for condition 4. Ericsson, Krampe and Tesch-Romer, 1993, folio 368. During a 3-hour baseball game, they write, a batter may get only 5 to 15 pitches, perhaps 1 or 2 relevant to a particular weakness, whereas during optimal practice of the same duration a batter working with a dedicated pitcher has several hundred batting opportunities, where this weakness can be systematically explored. Same 3 hours, 5 to 15 against several hundred. And on why work supplies so few they are blunt, for the reason episode 10 aired, that the cost of a mistake discourages the exploring that would improve you. Which puts me in the position of correcting my own instrument, on air, in the episode that found the error. The rubric I published in episode 10 says of condition 5, derived from nothing, this row is mine, no paper says it, it carries no citation, and I said it again last episode in the closing line. Folio 368 is a paper and it says it, inside the same article the row above it already cites. The correction is not that the row is wrong, it is that the mechanism was never mine, and the mechanism is repetitions per unit time, work against practice, quantified with a batter. And the correction goes further than the draft of it did, because one column to the right of that batter the same paper states its basic assumption, that the amount of time an individual is engaged in deliberate practice is monotonically related to that individual's acquired performance, and all 3 of its studies are built on practice accumulated rather than years in the domain. So the counting rule is theirs as well. The pitches were counted by a batter, in a book they cite. What is left as mine is thin, and it is the transfer. Nobody in that paper is counting representatives against a junior software engineer's year, or putting the count on a card beside for conditions that do have citations. It is a smaller claim than the one I made last episode. Now the ceiling on this episode, and it is on the neighboring folio, where that paper is specific about what practice has to contain. The learner has to be motivated to attend to the task has to be designed against what they already know so it can be correctly understood after a brief period of instruction. They should receive immediate informative feedback and knowledge of results of their performance, and they should repeatedly perform the same or similar tasks. A drill can be built to satisfy every line of that. But read the next column. To assure effective learning, they write, subjects ideally should be given explicit instructions about the best method and be supervised by a teacher to allow individualized diagnosis of errors, informative feedback, and remedial part training. And the same column puts the instructor in charge of sequencing those tasks and of deciding when the learner moves on. The paper underwriting the simulator puts a senior inside it. So does the photograph on folio 3, captioned, "Instructors carefully watch the progress of a pilot using the link trainer." And so does that folio on how the trainers were used, which is as a step preceding actual flight training. Preceding it, not instead of it. Which brings me to the exercise this channel published in the last series, before any of this had a name. The seeded defect drill. Take code you know works, tell a model to plant 3 bugs that preserve the style and break the behavior, and read for them cold, claims first. Your catch rate is a number, and the first week it will be a humbling one, which is precisely why you measure it, because it moves with practice, and watching it move is watching a skill grow. 2 things about it matter here that did not matter then. It does not depend on the assistant being clever, because mutation testing has planted defects into working code for decades, and that same series pointed people at Mutmut and Striker to do it for free. And the machine's job here is narrow. It generates the exercise, it does not teach, it holds no theory of your system, and when you cannot find the 3rd bug it is the worst thing in the room to ask. So the team designed a drill block, and as always this is our own worked example, labeled as ours, not anybody's measurement. Component 2 of the one-pager. 3 sessions a week, 3 defects planted in each, cut against a copy of code the team owns and ships, so the shapes are theirs rather than a textbook's. The tech lead picks the defect classes, and picks them off the error analysis the new hire has owned since Block 2, which is where that team found 11 of 19 failures sitting in one pile. A refund window the model invented and stated with total confidence is a defect class, and so is the one where the tests pass because the test came out of the same wrong claim. The catch rate goes on the wall next to the team's evil scores, where formation is measured the way production is measured. And the tech lead reads the misses rather than the score, because the miss names the class, and the class is what next week is built from. 6 weeks of that block is 54 defect reads, and I want to be careful about what that number is. It is not 54 more than last episode, because Block 2 counts golden set cycles on a named day each week, and a cycle is not a defect read, which is a different unit. What matters is that both numbers exist at all, where before either block nobody could answer the counting question for that person in any form, which is what a 0 on that row means. And Ericsson's warning belongs here rather than down in the limits, because it cuts against what I am selling. Mere repetition of an activity, they write, will not automatically lead to improvement in, especially, accuracy of performance. Representatives with the loop attached are deliberate practice, and representatives without it are a busier week. Then the grade, scored by quoting the rubric's own words for each row back at this candidate, because last episode 1 graded from a summary of my instrument and the literal text took 2 rows off me, and it has done it again. Legitimate, and score 0 if the junior's work could be deleted with no customer noticing. Every artifact this block makes can be deleted, and the row's first line says real work, not a training exercise. 0. Peripheral, and here is the first correction, because I had this at 1. Score 0 if there is no bound, or no exit, or nobody has thought about either. This block has the cleanest bound in the series and no exit at all, and a bound with no way out is the rubric's own holding pen. 0. Contact, and here is the second correction, which goes the other way and I trust it less for that. Score 1 if one person holds the theory and is willing to help. The tech lead who picks the classes is inside this block, and if he is inside it for rows 4 and 5 then he is inside it for row 3. 1. Designed feedback, score 2 if at least one loop exists whose purpose is formation, with an owner and a written form, and a 2 also has to pass the scale's 3-part test, an owner, survival of that owner leaving, and a written form. The catch rate has all 3, because another senior can run a written recipe. 2. And density, score 2 if the rep count is deliberately managed and somebody owns it, and the same 3 parts hold, because a schedule on a wall survives anybody leaving. 2. 5 of 10 against family A7, and the total did not move when both corrections landed. A rota scored 2, 2, 1, 1, 1. This block scores 0, 0, 1, 2, 2. Take the better of the 2 on each row and you get 9, and that 9 is arithmetic rather than evidence, because nobody has run both together and I am assuming they compose without interfering. Then the limits, and there are 5. This block has never been run, here or anywhere I can cite, so whether it forms judgment is the thing nobody has shown, and what you have heard is a design with a paper behind its parts. Second, this is one component and not the whole family. The open source strand, where a customer does feel the work, is not graded here, and it is the one that would move row 1. Third, the instrument has now been applied 3 times, all 3 by me, to answers I chose, which is not a tested thing. Fourth, the moderator underneath row 4 was observed and not assigned a direction to look rather than a lever. And fifth, the one that decides the next episode, because contact sits at 1 in both columns and neither family can buy the 2, because a rota cannot manufacture a second head and a simulator certainly cannot. Your exercise, and it is a do this rather than a watch this. Run 1 seeded defect drill this week. Take something that works, have a model plant 3 bugs that keep the style and break the behavior, read for them cold, and write the number down. Then do the part that is actually the technique, which is to name the class each miss belong to, because a catch rate on its own is a score and the classes are a curriculum. The artifact is the drill kit, the recipe, and the defect classes, linked below. You will know it worked when somebody asks you for a harder class rather than a better score. 2 families now, and both are things one team can start without anybody's permission. The row neither can buy is the one that needs a second person holding the theory, and that is not a design problem, it is a hire, a rotation, and a bill. Next episode, the institution, and who pays for it.